Slydepay merchant operations, and in a sense, it's a training session also to get you to see the new platform and get familiar with the features that the platform is going to offer. Please do mute your mics if you're not speaking at the moment. The functionality is available for you to raise your hand if you have any questions, but then we would have a questions and answer session at the end of basically the webinar also, and then feel free to type in any questions that you have into the chat of on the call, right? Those are a couple of ground rules for the training. Please do mute your mics if you don't have anything to say throughout the session. Do raise your hand if you have any question. That is when we get to the Q&A part of the session. And please do type in any questions that you have. At the Q&A, I would go into the chat session and then basically read the questions and the suggestions that you have, right? So thank you once again for making the time. And we are 12 minutes past 2, and I'd like to start at this point. Okay, so for your information, the session is being recorded for training and quality purposes for improvement on the platform, right? So please be aware that the session is being recorded. So all questions and comments would be on record, all right? So today we'll be speaking about the Slydepay merchant operations session of the platform. We're basically going to look at a few items of the course for today. So we have 3 sessions that have been planned. I believe the invites have been sent to each and every single one of you. And in the invite, you get to see what we'll be doing on each of the days. For today, would be mainly focusing on merchant account access, transaction management, and then the order management side of things. Order management is a new functionality that has been added onto the platform for you to be able to see all the payment requests that are coming your way. And as we go into the session, you would basically get to see the details of it. But before we actually delve into the functionality on the platform, we would basically be talking about what the Slydepay merchant service section of the platform is, for which you would see the functionality that it totally provides, right? So the items that have been highlighted are what our focus is going to be for today. For subsequent days, we'll be looking at user management, branch management, device management or app management, and then management of settlements and monitoring of settlements. All right, okay. So the main learning goals, or basically from this session, what I would like each and every one of us to take is one, basically understand the makeup of the Slydepay merchant service platform, and then also we're going to be looking at the monitoring and tracking of payments and associated orders. So from this particular session, each and every one of us have a fair idea as to how transactions come about and how orders can be monitored, and then basically the different parts of an order and how you can understand an order and making sure that the services that you're providing to your customers, the payment services that you're providing to your customers are actually being fulfilled. Okay. On subsequent days, we'll be looking at onboarding and management of users across Slydepay, understanding how to set up and manage payment devices across physical, that's in-store, and digital collection channels. And then we look at settlement tracking and reporting. But the main items for today are basically the 2 highlighted or bolded items on the top. All right. So the session is an hour and 30 minutes. I would try and make sure that within the first hour, we go through as much content as possible. And then the remaining 30 minutes we can use for Q&A, and then to basically get feedback on specific features that you have suggestions or comments about. All right. I hope each and every single person can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay,
I can.
sure. Okay, sure. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So, what's the Slydepay merchant service? That's the first thing that we'll be looking at. Basically, Slydepay merchant service is a solution that offers merchants the ability to manage collections and payments via Slydepay, right? The key benefits of the solution basically is around giving a centralized view of collections across each and every single channel, be it USSD, your online web integrations, or the Slydepay marketplace, right? Throughout all these channels, you'll be able to monitor as collections come in and orders are being made on the various channels. Also, it gives you real-time cashless management, which basically has to do with the fact that you are having collections being done or payments being done by your customers online and through USSD, for which you basically can manage it by by different people within your organization. So this is an added bonus that this platform gives. Now, it offers and convenience for your customers in a sense that now customers are able to easily pay on USSD, easily pay through your web stores, and then also through the Slydepay marketplace, which is basically very much known as BPS for most of the merchants. And then there's an omni-channel collection. So basically collections are across online, a marketplace, a web post, and then USSD. That's basically how the platform stretches out to allow you as a merchant to be able to offer your services to customers and also make collections for them. And then it comes with analytics and reporting. So with this platform, you are able to download transaction reports. You can download a report of all transactions that are coming from a particular collection, or you can actually download transactions that have to do from a particular period of time, which you can use offline for either reconciliation or any activity within your organization for which you need these reports, right? So this is an overview basically of the entire platform. In the middle here sits the merchant collection channels, which are powered by the Slydepay app. We have the web post, which is a checkout page for e-commerce integration. So those that have merchants that have stores on either shopping carts, basically. So WordPress, Open Carts, Joomla, all those sites can have a connection through our plugins. And then you also have merchants that have custom websites or e-commerce cards being developed for them. They can also do an integration using the web post for which they'll be able to do collections, right? So this is basically a checkout page that allows you to do collections. Then you have the USSD post. This is basically a point of sale device that is developed on the USSD platform. This allows you to send payment prompts to customers for which they would enter their PIN and then complete the transaction, and money will be moved from their account to yours. Or you can have customers actually dial in a short code with your payment reference attached to it, for which money is also moved from their account, their mobile money wallets, into your Slide account, right? And then we have the merchant marketplace, which I will be showing sometime later in the session, for which I'll be doing a few transactional demos on. So here you have all the services or the collections that you have displayed to every Slydepay customer, for which they can come and make payments to your particular service, right? And then there's the QR code, which Slydepay provides for merchants to use in store, where customers can come in and then scan and then have payments done. All right. Then, so aside from the channels that is offered by this new platform, you have the merchant management sections where we have onboarding. So for this particular platform, we offer sub account management. So with your current Slydepay account, you'd have the ability to just have one user that basically can log in and then see collections that have been done or generate reports. For this, we have included the ability to have multiple users with roles and rights where they can perform specific actions within your organization surrounding collections. So there's a process in which you can onboard these users. We'll be looking at this section in tomorrow's session. And then we have transaction reporting. So you can see a live stream of transactions as they come in, and you basically be able to download these transactions from the transactional view and then the grade that is provided. Then you have commissions and fee management. So the platform allows for the management of commissions, which is basically the service charges that are applied, and then also fees that have to do with either real fees or any other service fee that is applied or needs to be applied to either the merchant or the customer making payments on behalf of the merchant, right? And you have automated settlements for all the transactions that are done on the platform at the end of a specific period, which is basically configured on each and every single collection merchant. You'd have settlements that are done each and every single time per the period that has been selected for each and every single merchant, and the monies are basically moved. And then you have, as a merchant, you can track the settlement process as it happens in real time. So you get to see when the settlement advice has been generated and sent over to the bank for processing. You would have a view where you can see the amount that is due to be settled, and you can download a report seeing all the transactions that are going to be settled for the period, right? And then you have merchant integrations. This basically has to do with web integrations that you can do on our REST APIs and also for SOAP, and then for any other standard where integrations are necessary. And then also it goes both ways for integrations, in that Slydepay is able to integrate into your billing system and pull bills and then display them on the marketplace and any other channels that customers can make payments, for which you would see in real time when payments are made. So this is an overview of the Slydepay merchant, the Slydepay merchant services platform, right? So a few features that the platform offers. It offers account access, basically, which has to do with the ability to log in, password reset, profile management, account logout. So being able to go in and out of your account and basically manage the accounts per user. And then we have sub account management. This is basically the ability to create other users within your organization to manage the collections that are being done. You can assign roles and rights to the users that you create. You can assign them access to specific collections. So for example, in your organization or as a merchant, you have 3 different collections that you are doing, and then you want some particular people within the organization to have a view of just one collection or 2 collections. You can basically configure it in such a way that these users can only see for these 2 services that they have access to, right? So that has to do with the collection access control. And then you can update the details of a user, or basically remove or disable a user from being able to access the account. So this works when you have someone within the organization that is leaving the organization, or is not going to be around for a while. So you can disable their account for which they won't be able to see transactions coming in or manage collections in any way. Then you have settlement management, which has to do with the ability to set up settlement preferences. This has to do with the days you would want to be settled, the time periods, and whether you would want your settlement to be done in consolidation, meaning that you want a bulk amount being placed into your bank account, or you would want to see each and every single transaction that was collected during that period being settled into your account. So those are the preferences that you can set for settlement. And then there's the ability to have a settlement advice. This is basically the file that is sent over, is generated by the platform and sent over to the bank for settlement. It's generated and it can be downloaded. So you can see the transactions that are actually being settled. You can download it and have a view of it for your internal reconciliation. You have settlement notifications. So these notifications come in when the settlement process basically starts running. You are notified that, okay, the settlement process for Slydepay has started. For this particular period, this is the amount of money that was collected. These are the transactions that's amount to the total collections that were done. And then this is the total amount of money that is actually going to be settled into your bank account, right? And also when the settlement is complete at the bank, you basically get a notification saying that the bank has settled this amount of money into your account, for which you can check your account, or you receive also a notification from the bank letting you know that basically the settlement is complete. Then you have settlement transaction reports, which, as I spoke about earlier on, have to do a detailed report of each and every single transaction that was involved in the settlement process. And you get to see the charges that are associated with it, each and every single transaction, the day that the transaction occurred, basically which users actually made payments for those transactions. And then you have a narration field that basically gives you a sum of or a summary of the transaction entry, right? Then we have branch management, which have to do with merchants that have branches. So you can set up branches where you can have in-store collections being done. You can update or remove a branch. For example, you have a branch that is currently not active, but has been set up on a system. You can basically disable the branch, update the details of the branch if you are changing the name or doing a rebranding, or you can actually remove a branch if you are basically downsizing and you don't have some branches that are currently functioning. You can remove them from the system. And then there's the ability to enter for the branch. This allows those individuals to be able to see transactions specifically to those branches, and then set up USSD POS or point of sale devices that would be used within the branches, right? And then we have transaction management. So we have a new concept called Unsettled Funds. This basically tells you how much money has been collected over a period of time, which is yet to be settled. So you have a view for your unsettled funds. You have a transaction history where you can see payments that are done based on real, and the transaction history actually gives a detailed view of each and every single parameter that went into the transaction. So you can see the different IDs that are coming from the Slydepay system, the third-party wallets, be it mobile money or card, that was involved in a transaction, right? And then the customer that made the payment, the details of the customer that made the payment, so that if you have any follow-ups to do with those customers, you can basically contact them, right, for issue resolution or for any kind of feedback that you require. Then you have the ability to search the transaction grid and also filter based on date and other parameters. I'll be showing that to you since we'll be looking at transactions today. And then you can basically download the transaction reports in Excel format. Then you can view their transaction summaries that at a glance tell you the amount of money that have come in or monies that have gone out. This include settlements or transactions that have been reversed, right? And then you can see a net of basically the in and out transactions. Then you can also see a sum or a count of the transactions that have been done over a particular period of time. So you can say that for today you have 100 transactions that have been done, or 10,000 transactions that have been done that have amounted to this total value, right? And then we have the platform supports reversals and refunds, where reversals basically means that monies that have been collected before settlement can be sent back to the customer that made the payment if the customer either returns a good or has an operational issue for which there has to be some form of reversal. So this can be done, and this functionality is available to specific roles within the merchant organization, similar with refunds. And then you have order management. So there's a new concept of orders, and basically orders have to do with payment requests. We'll be getting into the details of that. Basically, they do with payment requests that customers have made, and then you can follow the life cycle of an order until it actually becomes a transaction, meaning that at that point, money has actually been collected from the customer, and either a service has been fulfilled or is yet to be fulfilled, right? So we have an order history. You can see, you can search and filter the order. Then you have you can look at orders based on different collections that you have, right? And then you can basically have other actions that you perform on the order, right? Then we come to merchant management. So the ability to view your profile. This section has to do with profile management on the platform, right? Being able to see your name, the times that settlements will be run, all those details that have to do with your profile and your preferences. And then you have integrations where we do web integrations for your e-commerce stores, and also integrations into the billing, if you have any billing systems for which we can expose them and then have collections being done, right? So these are the main features that are offered by the Slydepay merchant service platform. Okay, so now we're going to actually do a deep dive into the portal where we actually see the interface that you'll be logging in day to day to monitor transactions. Then, so we'll do a solution overview. We'll look at the portal, and then we would simulate a few transactions to actually see how transactions reflect on the portal, and also how you can view the level of orders, and also view your unsettled funds, right? So basically, the Slydepay merchant portal, as I've explained earlier on, offers merchants the ability to manage various aspects of their operations. And so with Slydepay, merchants are able to achieve the following. So these are the main benefits that we see the platform offering. So real-time monitoring of order status and payments across different collection channels. It enables in-store collections using the devices that we have, basically the USSD POS. We enable e-commerce and online collections through the Slydepay web POS, which is the checkout page. Set up a management of profiles and access rights of other users within the merchant organization, which have to do with sub accounts and different people being able to view different parts of the collections. Set up and track the performance of brick and mortar branches across the merchant organization. Real-time settlement monitoring with notifications, and then the ability to troubleshoot customer order and payment issues across all the different collection channels that we have. So now we're actually going to go into the deep dive of the platform. And from this point, I would actually be switching between the slides and the browser for which I'll be doing the demo. I would like to remind you that if you have any questions or any comments to make, you can basically type them into the comment section of the chat. But then we'll be going into Q&A session in a bit, right? So at this point, I'll be switching into a browser now. So first, we'll be looking at transaction management. And basically, transactions are the heartbeat of what merchants do on the platform. Right? It offers, and Slydepay is offering visualization tools that allow you to see transactions that are being processed across all the that are being done across all the various collection channels. And in this session for transaction management, we'll be looking at transaction summaries, the transaction history grid. We'll be looking at the detailed view of transactions, so you can actually open up a transaction to view the details of a transaction. And then we'll be looking at how you can filter the grid to basically view transactions that are done either by a particular mobile money wallet, or either by card, or by any other filtering parameters that the platform also offers. Then you have transaction reporting and downloading, and ability to search, right? So at this point, I'll be switching to my browser. All right. Okay. So to start off by going into transactions, first we have to actually access the account, right? We have to access the merchant account, and then to do that, we come into the our browser, and then we enter the URL or the address to go and view our merchant account, right? So I'm typing in. I'm basically doing this on a test environment for which we have a version of the platform that is running. So I enter the URL. For this, we enter test.usebillbox.com. The platform is being powered by Billbox, and we come to that address. So on a daily basis, what you can actually do is that you can bookmark the URL, the live URL that allows you to come to your account. Right. So you can. So once you come on this portal, you have the ability to log in, and in logging in, you need a username and a password. Now we've set up a merchant that is called Papillo Ventures. So two merchants basically for this webinar. We have Papillo Ventures, and then we have Pinocchio, and for which at different points I'll be using either of them, right? So I enter the username, which is Papillo, and then enter my password. And then there are two things. I can click enter or click this button to basically log me in. Okay, so now I'm logged in as a merchant. Basically, this user that I'm using is a admin user for this particular merchant, meaning that this user can basically do everything within the merchant context, right? When we get to user management, we look at the different users and what they will be able to do, right? Now, once I'm logged in, you will see this fresh interface, and then we have menus up top. We have history, orders, branches. We have reconciliations, templates, users, customers, bills, settlement devices. Bear with me, I mentioned earlier on that this is a test environment. So we have a few tests, future features that are coming up, but then we have them on a test environment. The main part of the these menus that will be focused on today has to do with history and with orders, right? History and with orders, right? So history and orders. So I would start off from the history page, and to basically go into the history page, you click the history menu. There are different sections of the history page that you can look at payments, which basically consider mobile money payments in a sense. So you have all payments that are coming onto the platform, or you can look at specific payments that are coming by a particular rail. So you have card transactions. I believe if I go to that session, there are no card transactions yet, so none is loaded. So you have no transactions found. But then I'll be going into the payment section. All right. So for payments, you basically see that we have the transaction summary up top here. You can see first we have a tab or a card for services. This is sort of like similar to what you have in your current Slydepay merchant account, where you have a couple of spark lines on top here that gives you an idea of what's happening on the platform. Here we have services, and services have to do with the number of service collections that you are making on the platform. And then you have transactions. So this tells you the number of transactions that you've done over this particular period. So this is the first. So it tells you the number of transactions. Then it tells you the total amount of money that has been credited to your account. So this credit transactions, as you can see, we have one transaction here that was done at 208. It's 13 CDs. And then you have the debit transactions. These transactions show if you basically had one or a from your account. Then you have the nets of the transactions. This is basically a difference between the credits and the debits transactions that have been done over the period. So these are the transaction summary. And from a quick glance, you can understand what is happening with the collections that are being done for the different services that you are offering or Slydepay is doing collections for. And then you can then you have the different filtering parameters in this section. Right, I believe everyone can see my mouse on the screen. Please let me know if you can't see it. Okay, so I believe everyone can see my mouse. So you have the different filtering parameters here. So you can basically filter according to the different payment modes. You can buy bills, and bill payments consist of all mobile money payments that have been done. And then you can view transactions that are specific to card transactions. So if you filter by card transactions, we can see that there are none that have actually been done, right? And then you can filter by the different services that are being offered. So you can collect for various services that you offer, right? And for they have two services that they collect for. They collect for airtime services, and then they have goods that they sell, right? So if I should filter based on goods and services, okay. So if I should filter based on goods and services, it will bring me a list of transactions based on goods and services, right? And then these have to do with reconciliation functionality. These are features that would be coming in future upgrades, but they're now on the test environment. And then we have filtering based on dates. So you can basically view or look for transactions that were done today. So let me refresh the page. Okay, so you can look for transactions that have been done today over the last 7 days. Okay, and then we can look at transactions that have been done over the last 30 days. Okay, so over the last 30 days, you can see that transactions, we have two services that were collected. A total of 48 transactions have been done, which amounted to 3,760 thousand Ghana cedis. There weren't any reversals for the period, right? And this is the total amount that was basically collected. This is the net amount that was collected over the period. And if you look down here in this section, you can basically see the transaction grid, which tells you the service for which the collection was done, the amount that was paid, the currency in which it was paid for, the status, the debit credit status of the transaction. So this is a credit to account. the user that made the payment, so the customer that made the payment. This is an invoice number, but basically it's the reference that the customer entered. And then these are payment receipts for which you can track the different payments that were done. So this is a receipt that is from Billbox, one from the third party, right? And this tells you basically transaction, which is basically Stanbic, right? In this case, it will be Slydepay, but we are on the test environment. The bank we're using or the settings we are using is called Stanbic branch, and it's the status of the transaction. Okay, now we have the dates the transaction was done, so you can see that this transaction was done on the 1st of December 2020, a specific time that the transaction was done, right? And then there are actions that you can perform on transactions. Okay, so this is basically an overview of each and every single transactional entry that is done on the platform. Okay, and you can go into the details of a transaction and get to understand more about that transaction. If I go into the details, I would like to show you when a transaction actually occurs. You can basically see your unsettled funds. We are calling them unsettled funds because these are monies that have been collected and are yet to be settled, right? It's not necessarily a balance because you can't transact with it, okay? But then these are unsettled funds. So when you click on your profile here, you can see the unsettled funds for the merchant. So an amount of 3,776.34 is yet to be settled, right, for the merchant. And then we can look at the merchant profile, which we spoke about earlier on. So we can look at the type of merchant, that currency. Then also here you see the funds that are yet to be settled. And we have a brief description, like the full name of the merchant, and then also the type of service that the merchant offers, right? So this goes into the merchant profile. So now what's is actually going to happen is that I'm going to go back into the transaction view, right? And then we're going to look at the details of a transaction, right? Now, transactions are actually payment requests that have been executed, in a sense that when we say executed, I mean that monies have been collected from the customer, right? So the customer has made payments, or we can guarantee that for this particular order, money has been collected from the customer's wallet, for which it becomes a transaction. Up to that point, it's just an order, right? And when we get into order, we look at the different stages, or different stages that an order can basically be in, right? So at this point, I'm going to the transaction details. Now, as you can see the form or modal loads to view. You can see the service that the transaction was made for. You can see the mobile number of the customer that the payment was made for. So this had to do with an airtime service. So this is the mobile number that the airtime was paid, was bought for. You can see the customer that made payment, right? And then you can see the contact of the that made payment. So this is basically a customer that was buying airtime for himself, right? And then we can see the payments mode. So we know that the customer used MTN mobile money in making the payment. These details have to do with check reference if checks were being used. But then we are doing digital collection, so these do not apply. Now we have the amounts that was paid by the customer. So we have 13 cities that was paid, and then we have the transaction date. So this is the dates that the transaction was done. We have the status of the transaction. We show that it was confirmed. Then we have a transaction ID. Now this is the transaction ID that is generated from Slydepay for the service. And then you have a receipt number, which is basically the transaction ID that comes from MTN mobile money. Okay, so this is the transaction ID that comes from MTN mobile money. So should a customer come to you and tell you that they made a payment and then they've been debited. When they go into their mobile money SMS, the SMS that they get from MTN, you will see this transaction ID there, and then you can basically cross-reference with what you have on the platform, right? And then you have a little narration here, which shows you that pay 13 CD Super Pillow airtime, right? And there's the ability to also print the details of the transaction if you would like to use it offline. Okay, so these are the transaction details of a particular transaction, right? So I would like to basically do a little bit of filtering, which is basically looking at transactions that were done over the last. Okay, so we'll pick transactions. We spoke about the filtering parameters that you can use, right? And I'll be looking at transactions that were done between the 5th of October and the 23rd of October. And here you can see there's 2 p.m., but I want to see transactions that occurred, let's say, between 6 a.m. on that day. So let's say 6 a.m., right? And then till 11:59 p.m. Let's see, okay, 11:55 p.m. on the 23rd. Okay, and I click apply. And then that's the search. So these are basically filtering that you can do per date. We can filter it and see if it's for a particular service. So we can see that you have from the 5th of October to the 23rd of October between 6 a.m. on the 5th, and then 11:55 p.m. on the 23rd. We can view all the transactions that came in, right? We can see the audit statuses of the transaction. This basically means that for these transactions, the audit statuses means that for those transactions, they're verified on either the MTN side or the card provider side, meaning that the money is actually being confirmed to be have been collected, right? We can go into the various transactions and view the details as we did earlier on. We can print them, right? Or we can decide that we want to search. So we can search for a transaction based on, let's say, a mobile number. Oh, I'm getting an error on my search. Okay, we'll come back to, okay, so we can see that I entered 05410 and it has brought up all transactions that were basically done for a particular customer, right? That have the number 054 in it. So 05410 in it, 05410. So you can basically search for transactions based on the Momo number that the customer provides or the transaction receipts that the transaction IDs that are provided by a customer. Sorry. So let's say I look for a transaction that has 016 in it. Hopefully there'll be a transaction of that. Okay, so 016. So we can see that the number of transactions that have 016, it brings up all the transactions that have a reference of 016, and then you can see 016543888, and then you can see 06016. So there's a element of 016 in this particular transaction. And you can, okay, so with this you can see I think this is 016 somewhere in this particular reference, but it's not showing at the moment. So it brings up all the transactions that are affiliated to a search term of 016, right? So this is basically are basically the items that you can do on the transaction page. And if you watch, you can see that the search that was done, you can see a number of services that were searched, and you can also see the number of transactions that were involved in the search. Okay, but it doesn't give you a total amount of the credits or the debits from the search result. So that's not summed up, but then it gives you transactions that have the set terms that were entered in a search box showing on the platform, and you can go in and view the details of each and every single transaction to actually confirm those. Yeah, you can see that in this transaction reference, it's a 016 here, so it pulled that up, right? And basically we can get out of the search. And one more thing that I would like to actually show in this transaction context is the ability to download reports for the transaction, right? So we've basically filtered transactions that were done from the 5th to the 3rd of October from 6 a.m. to 11:55 p.m. Okay, and then we basically want to use this information offline in maybe another system or a department that we have within the organization will want to use it. So we can download the transactions. It tells you that processing request. So when you click, it basically downloads. Give me a moment here. It's downloaded. I can save on my computer, or I can basically open it up. A moment. Okay, so as you can see, the transactions that were downloaded are here, and this is how it basically appears in CSV in Excel. So you can basically see the date the transaction was done, the service for which was done, the reference that was entered. The customer names are currently not showing. But I'm sure it's an issue that we have in a test environment. The amounts that were paid, the charges that applied to each and every single transaction. For these particular ones, no charges were applied. You have the currency, right? And these charges have to do with service charges. Okay. Now you have the currency for which they were paid in the credits, and then you have the customers that actually made the payment of these services. You can see the payer name, so it's the customer name. So you can, if you want to get in touch with some of your customers, you can actually download this information and then contact your customers if you want to send them SMSs or anything of that sort. They have the transaction IDs, which are basically from Slydepay, the receipt numbers, which are the third-party IDs that are coming from the mobile money providers or the card providers, for which you can use to do a checkup or follow-up or for support purposes. And then you have the narration of the transaction. So these are all payments that were done between the 5th of October and the 23rd of October this year on the platform. This is basically test transactions that were done. And as a merchant, you can basically use this information offline in other systems or pass it between departments for you to do analysis or anything of that sort, right? So I believe I've touched on every single item on the transactions and the details that you can see per transaction. Please take notice if there's anything that you currently have in the version of Slydepay that you are using that you're not seeing here. Please take notes and let me know about it. I'll be very to pass it on to the team, for which would include these details here, or any suggestions that you have that you'd like to basically see in the transactions details that would help you in operations, right? And I think the last thing that I haven't showed is the transactions that you can do per page. So you have 25. If you could, you can see that extends to 25. So you can show one of 25, the number of entries that are showing, and you have pagination also on the page, right? And you can view up to 100 sets of transactions. That's if they get up to 100, right? So that's basically the history page of things. And a recap. It gives you a sparkline, which at a glance you get to see the transactions that have been performed over the period of time, the amount of money that has been collected, and then the next amount, if any reversals have happened. You get a set of filters that you can filter by. So these are the various models or wallets that are being used for collection. So mobile money wallets and cards, you can filter by that. You can also filter by the services that are being offered, and then you can filter by dates, right? And you also have the option of downloading your transactions view, for which you can use offline, right? And then you have the transaction grid, which shows you in real time all the transactions that are coming in, right? You can look the at a glance, you see the service that is being paid, the amount, the currency, the various IDs that are coming from Slydepay and also from the third-party system. And then you can see the status of your transactions. And then also in actions, you can view more details of a particular transaction, right? So this is all the features and the functionalities that you currently have with the Slydepay transaction history grid. Okay, so I believe, so I believe we've touched on transaction summaries, the transaction history grid, the transaction detail view, the transaction grid filtering, which we filtered by date, and the different services. We've looked at transaction reports download, and then also search, right? The ability to search by the name of a customer or different IDs that are passed within Billbox and also from third parties. So this gives us a recap of the transaction section. I see a hand up from Nana Call and also
Okay. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to hammer something on what Nee said, just so that we are clear. So for businesses that are using the Slydepay REST API, this interface is new to you, and what we've added to the functionality, which was a pain point for most of you, was where a customer will send you a screenshot of their mobile money and would tell you that they've paid, but you can't see it. Initially, when you logged into the platform, the blue one, where it will request that you log in and you enter your secret code, you will not be able to view the transaction ID. And it was becoming a pain point because most of you will send them to me for me to confirm the payment before I reflect at your backend. So now what we are doing as part of this platform upgrade, like you mentioned, is when you click on the action, we give you the mobile money transaction ID as well. So you are able to validate real time without necessarily coming to Amy or any of my colleagues to confirm a payment. So now, once someone says they've paid and they even send you the screenshots, you can pick the transaction ID in there to check at the back end if indeed the transaction was successful based on the transaction dates. And in addition, now you can download your own statements and select a duration to check report. For those who run joint business, but only one person is able to log in now, like you mentioned, you can have sub accounts. It means that other people in your team would also have access to the platform, and you would define the roles on responsibility. So I just wanted to clarify that, just so that we are all in sync with the new platform and what we intend.
okay. Thank you very much, Nana Cole. I see a couple of suggestions or comments inside the comment section. I'll be getting to that very soon. Nana Cole, I see that your hands are still up. Is there something that you'd like to say, or it's basically from earlier? Okay, all right. So back to transaction. So basically we are done with the transaction side of things. I hope that my explanations and of course recap has also basically cemented what the transactions page and view offers you as merchants, and the ability to be able to manage things operationally also with different transactions that are coming in. Next, I'll be moving to the orders, right? And I'll be speaking a little bit about orders, which are in a sense have some similarities to a transaction, but then I would first give a difference between what an order is and what a transaction is. And then we would go on to the platform and actually look at how the orders part of things work, right? Okay. So orders basically represent customer payments requests that are made across the different merchant channels. In this particular session, we'll be looking at the order history grid. We'll be looking at the details of an order. Then you have the order grid, the ability to filter on the order grid, and then the different statuses of orders, or the different statuses that an order can basically have, and then the ability to search through the orders, right? And in the instance where you have a report being made by a customer, if you want to do any kind of troubleshooting, the orders tab is where you start from, right? If you want to understand anything around the payment, the orders tab is where you would basically start from, because the orders shows you the flow of activities until the point, or the flow of actions until the point where the money was collected for the customer. And if money was not collected from the customer, you also see that, and then you see the state in which the order actually is. All right. So at this point, I'll be moving into the browser, the interface, to show you the orders tab. All right. So to navigate into the orders tab, you basically log in with your merchant account. You would basically go into the orders menu, click on the orders menu, and so you click onto the orders menu, and then what you see the filtering column here where you can filter by different things, and then you basically have the number of pages that you can, the number of items you can view per on the grid. So here we've selected 10, but currently we just have one order, right? And then you have the order grid itself, okay, which has details of the order. Okay, so like every other thing, or before a purchase is actually done, a customer has to make an order. Okay, customers can make orders but decide not to pay, for which they abandon the orders, which means that the order is probably still in an open state, right? And later can be closed, which means that the customers can't make payments for that particular order. You can also have orders where the customers try to make payments for the order, and in between the payments, basically the payment is processing, so the order is also in the processing state, right? For which money hasn't yet been collected from the customer. And then you have a state where a customer generates an order, or calls you and say that they want an order, and then they've sent you money, so they've paid for the order, right? But then you haven't fulfilled the service yet. So you have a paid order, but then the service hasn't yet been fulfilled. And then you have a final state, or not a final state, but then basically you have a state of the order where the customer says they want to get something. They have selected the payment mode that they would want to use. They have gone ahead and made the payment, which means that the money has been collected and then the service has been fulfilled, right? So throughout each of the 4 steps that I have spelled out, you get to see that you can basically track this flow also on from your Slydepay merchant portal, right? So to give you a better understanding, I think I'll pull up orders from the last 30 days. So I'm basically jumping into the filtering state right now. So I'll pull up from the last 30 days. So I'm picking orders based on date or period of time, right? So I can pick orders that were done yesterday. Okay, as you can see, there were no orders that were done. I can pick orders that were done that were made on the system in the last 7 days. And that includes just the order that I just did today. And I can pick up orders that were done over the last 30 days, right? Okay. So over the last 30 days, you can see that there are 116 orders that have been done, right? And for each and every single one, you get to see the date, the order ID, the bill reference, basically, if it's a mobile, if it's airtime that was being bought, what number was entered. If it was a service that the customer has to enter a reference, what reference was being entered. Then you get to see the service that the order was being created for, the currency in which the order was going to be paid for, the amount for which the customer was going to pay, right? And the number of attempts that a customer has made in trying to pay for that particular order, right? And you have the status of the order, which here you can see as fulfilled. Then you have a receipt number. So here the payment was done with MTN mobile money. So you can see for this particular order, this receipt number shows that the ID that came from the third-party wallet. So here the mobile money wallets, right? And you can look at the details of it, of the order, which we would come to. But then I would like to go into the filtering section of things. So I can filter based on the status of an order, right? So as I mentioned, there are 5 different states in which an order can be. You have an open order, which means that this has been created and can be paid for, okay, or is yet to be paid for. You have a paid order, and a paid order means that money has been collected for that particular order, but the service is yet to be rendered, okay. So in a case where a customer should buy, and I'm using airtime as an example, should buy airtime, okay, and then the money has been deducted from the customer's wallet, but then the airtime is yet to be sent. You have the order being in the paid state, okay. Now you have processing, and processing basically means that we are in the stage of collecting the money from the customer, right? So if you see that an order is in the processing stage, that means that we are trying to actually take the money from the wallet that the customer is making the payment from, right? Then we have fulfilled. Fulfilled orders means that the customer made payment. We can guarantee that the money has been taken from the customer's wallet. If they were doing it on a card, we can guarantee that a deduction has been done from the card. And then the money is basically being placed into your merchant's account, for which you have an unsettled fund. And then of that particular value that was paid by the customer. And then the service has been rendered. So in the case of airtime, if you have a fulfilled airtime order, it means that the customer entered the details for which they wanted to buy airtime for a particular number. We took the money from the customer's wallet. If you're using MTN or Vodafone cash, we know that the money has been taken from the customer's wallet, which is basically secured for you. And then the airtime has been sent over to the customer. Okay, so this is basically a successful order in a sense. And then we have a cancelled order. So orders are cancelled after a period of time if they are not that paid for, right? So an open order at the end of the day would be cancelled, but this is basically configurable, right? But then you have the states where an order can be cancelled, right? So I can filter based on the different states of an order. So I've picked transactions that were done over the last 30 days. I would like to see all open orders for the last 30 days, right? So I can see the orders that are coming in. And if we come from let's say for this merchant and say that, oh, they tried to make payments for a service, but then they weren't able to complete it, we can see that they created an order. We can see the amounts that they tried to pay. We can see the number of attempts that the customer made, and then the state of the order, basically. Since the payment hasn't been complete, we don't see a receipt for it because no third party has been engaged, right? We can also filter based on services. So I can look for, if I have multiple services that I'm doing collection for, I can filter for only services that have to do with Papilio airtime. So you can see all the orders over the last 30 days that are related to Papilio airtime. I can also filter based on Papilio goods and services. And as you can see, there are 10 orders that were, so 10 open orders that were basically made for this particular service, right? And I can basically do all that shows all the orders, all open orders that were made for all services that I provide over the last 30 days, right? And then apps. So apps would be talking about apps, I think tomorrow or either in the next session or in the next 2 sessions. Apps have to do for your online stores. So you can filter based on an order that was created on, let's say, your online channel. Okay. So if I do test device, I don't know if there was any from test device. I don't think any payments were done from a device or an app. But then you can basically filter the transactions based on the different payment applications that are made available. So in store, you can see all the orders that came through a particular USSD shortcode. And then you can also see if they are from your online channel. So this is where you can filter them. And then you can search basically by the bill reference. So if I search with, let's say, 026, let's do, yeah. So if I enter 026, you see all the orders that have a bill reference of 026. I can pick an order based on, let me see if I can pick based on the amount. Okay, so currently you can just filter based on the bill reference in the order section, right? But then in upgrades, we'll be adding more items that you can filter by. Okay, so now we've looked at the filtering part of things. We've seen that you can basically view orders by number of entries that you'd want to see. So this is 50 entries per page. You can see that you can filter by the different statuses of an order, the services that you're offering, and over a particular time period too, right? And then you can filter based on the different apps that you're offering, you're doing collections through. So your in-store collection app, and then also your online collection integrations. So you can basically see orders that are coming through each and every channel that collections are being done, right? And you basically have a high view of an order, the data was created, the order details, the bill reference, the service that the payment was being made, and also the number of attempts and the status of an order. Now, what I would actually like to show you is the details of the order based on the statuses, right? So now we're going to look at the details of an open order and basically what you see. Okay, so to do that, you go to the actions section and you click on the information icon here, which is basically the eye, and see the order details. So this tells you the order number, right? The institution that created the order, in this case it would be Slydepay, the date it was created, the day the order was created, and then the invoice number on Slydepay, which is being powered by the Billbox platform. And then you have the service that was being paid, the amount for the order, and then the status, which is still open, and then the number of attempts. Currently it's not showing, but this should show actually 1, right? So the number of attempts that have been made. And then you can basically see in a tabular form the items that were included in the order. In this particular order, you have just 1 item. So you can see the code of the service that was being paid, the name of the service, the item, the unit price, the quantity, which is basically 1, and the subtotal. Okay. There's a check status button here, which allows you to, so you can basically check the status of the order, which hits the Slydepay system and sees if the status of the order here has changed or has been updated, right? So you can be looking at an order in real time where you can see that the order has opened, but then the page hasn't refreshed. If you hit check status, you can see that, okay, the order has been updated to paid because the money has been collected from the customer. And then when the page refreshes, you see the paid. If the service has been fulfilled, if you hit check status, it will basically see where the current state of the order is and let you know. Okay, so that's what the check status button does. So we close. So this is basically the details that you see with an open order. Now, let me look for a paid order between the same period. Okay, so between the same period, we have 4 attempts that entries for paid orders. I would pick, let's pick the last one here. Okay, so for a paid order here, you can see that there are more details per the paid order. So you can see the order number, the institution that basically processed it, the date it was created, the bill box or the Slydepay ID, the service that was being paid, the total amount, the status of the order, and you can see the number of attempts that were made. And then here, because it's been paid, you can see the person that made the payment, and then the mobile number of the customer that was making the payment, and then the payment date, right? So you can see that the order was generated or created at 9:36 on 11th, sorry, on the 3rd of November, and then on the 3rd of November at 9:37 a.m., the money was collected. So this is the time that we got back from MTN that the money has been collected. And then you have the fulfillment date. Since the fulfillment yet hasn't happened, you can see a fulfillment date on it. Right. Then you see the transaction ID that was generated by Slydepay. You don't get a receipt number yet because you are so in this case the receipt number hasn't returned yet from the service provider. Right. And then you see the mobile money channel that was used in doing, so you can see the wallet that was used in making the payments, and then you can see the channel ID. So in this case, the receipt number is the receipt from the merchant, right? This receipt number is a receipt from the merchant, and the channel ID is a response to the payment channel that was used. So this is the transaction ID that would come from MTN in the case in relation to this particular payment that was made. And then you can see the service that was being paid for, the amounts that was being, the value that was being collected, the quantity, and then the exact total basically. So this is what you see for a paid transaction. Okay. Now, quickly move on to a processing one. I hope I can find one. Okay, I have a couple of processing ones. So for a processing transaction or order, sorry, processing order, when you look at it, you would see that it has similar information as that of a paid one, because at this point we've made a call to the wallet provider to actually do a debit. But here you can see that we have the order details. It's in a state of processing. This is the attempt. This is the customer that was actually trying to make the payment, the mobile details of the customer, and then the payment date. So this is the date that the payment was actually being made, right? The request was actually made. And because the item hasn't yet been fulfilled, you don't see anything for the fulfillment date. Neither do you see anything for receipt number, because we haven't gotten any feedback from the merchant saying that they've distributed or they've disbursed the service or the good. But then you can see here the channel that was being used in making payments. So this is a card transaction, right? This is a card transaction. And since the transaction is still processing, we haven't gotten a transaction ID from the card provider for that particular transaction, right? And then here it shows the channel account. So this basically would show the card number. So because it was done on a test, we basically could enter a random digit, but this was the card number that was used in making the payment. So it actually shows, so it's the channel account that was used, right? So in the case of the card payment, you see the channel that was done, and then you see a maxed card number here, for which you would be able to reference if the customer comes over and says that they made a card transaction, but then the transaction hasn't yet been completed. You can go into orders and help them understand basically what is happening. And then you can do a check status quickly to see if basically the transaction has been completed. If the transaction has been completed, okay, so no transaction found. So if the transaction has been completed and if the status has changed, okay. And this is basically information around the service that was being paid. So this is what you actually see for an order that's in the processing state. Okay. Let me see if I have any transactions that have been cancelled. Okay, none at the moment. But then let me look at transactions that have been fulfilled. Okay, so for a fulfilled transaction, let me pick the first one. For a fulfilled transaction, you basically have all the details that have to do with that particular transaction, right? And you can see the order details, the fulfillment status of that transaction, the invoice total, basically. You can see the details of the customer that was making the payment, the transaction details from Slydepay. Now, this is a receipt from the merchant. Okay, that basically tells you that for that fulfillment or that order, this is the fulfillment number in a sense. And then the mobile wallet that was being used. And then you see also the ID that comes from the mobile money provider, for which you can reference it if the customer with the customer. And then you see the mobile money number that was used by, or the mobile money wallet number that was used by the customer in making payment. Okay, so yeah, basically that's the details that you see for orders. Yes, so basically this gives you an overview of everything under orders, I believe. So we've looked at the order history grid, we've looked at the order details view, and we've looked at being able to filter the order grid by the status of the orders, and we've looked at this statuses that orders can basically assume. We also look at the dates that you can basically do the filtering by. And then we look at the fact that you can filter by the different services that you're offering for collection. We've spoken about the order statuses, and then we've done the check status. We've used the check status button to see if the status of an order has been updated. And then we've gone through the ability to search by the bill reference, on the order. Okay, so at this point, I believe we have a few minutes to go, but then I would like to do a little bit of a simulation of how a customer would go through a payment flow, and then what you as a merchant would basically see once the payment is happening, right? So I would be switching to a different merchant to do this particular demo. So I'm signing out of this particular merchant, right? And I'll be logging into the account of Pinocchio, and I'll be entering the username and the password of the admin of the account. So we have mail.com, and we have moment. Okay, so we've logged in as Pinocchio. As you can see, the details of the transactions that have been done today. You can see that we have one transaction that has been done, 15.20, that have been collected. When we go to the details, you can see we have an unsettled fund of 15.20, right? And so this is the merchant that has logged in and can basically view the transactions that are coming in real time. Now, I'm going to go to the Slydepay merchant marketplace, where we can see all the services that are being offered by the different merchants and have basically been categorized. And we can search for Pinocchio. Okay, so we see Pinocchio Wholesale here under Goods and Services, and I click on Pinocchio. All right, and then basically it's a service, and they basically work with invoice numbers. So I'm going to enter the invoice number for which I am making or paying for my wholesale purchase of ice cream, right? So here is my invoice number. The amount I'll be paying is 105 CDs, 50 pesos, right? And then I click continue to payment. Now, when I click continue to payment, you see that I've basically been redirected to the web checkout page, right? And this flow would be a similar flow for merchants that have web stores or have e-commerce sites. This is basically a page where you'd be redirected for payments to be done. Okay, so as we can see, you can see that for Pinocchio, we have two main payment rails that can be used for Pinocchio. We have MTN and for card, we can see the item that we are paying. The service fee that basically is going to be charged the merchant shows here, right? And this is for demo purposes. So this shows you the service fee that is placed on the merchant's account. That's 1.5. And then the total amount that is basically going to be charged the customer is 107, right? This is the fee. Because so the service fee is being charged the merchant, but in this case, Pinocchio had decided to pass his service fee to the customer that is making payment. So that's why it shows here, and then it tells you that the total amount is 107 Ghana cedis. Okay, so you see here there's real fees. Now, these real fees are basically fees that are charged to customers when they're making payments. This is a configuration that you can have, right, for a merchant. So if the merchant is being charged a real fee, it can either be passed on to a customer. If it's passed on to a customer, it actually shows when the customer is making a payment for using a particular wallet, right? And currently in the Slydepay mobile app, similar fees shows whenever you're going to use a particular wallet. So this is a similar thing that you have on the web port. So now I want to make a payment with my mobile money. I selected mobile money. I've made a couple of payments early on, so I'm going to select 057, which is Botho, and then I have to specify that I am not a robot. Okay, this is for security purposes, and I go ahead and make payments. Okay, so you can see that the transaction was successful. An amount of 107 has been paid, and this particular service has a redirect. So you can set a redirect onto a collection or service where to be redirected to the merchant site or redirected to a particular page that the merchant prefers. These are all configurable things that can be done on a service, right? But for this particular one, we decided to redirect to Google. Okay, so now we make the payments. Now, when we come here, we haven't refreshed the page, or the page hasn't refreshed yet. We can see that there's no transaction that is showing yet, right? If I refresh the page, basically, we can see a new transaction of 105 that was made by Botho. This is the invoice number of it. These are the payment details. It shows that it's confirmed. The payment was made at 3:34, right? And we can look at the actions that show like details of the transaction, right? So these are the details of the transaction. Now we have a reverse button here, okay? And because I'm the admin of the account, I can see the reverse button. Now, this reverse button allows you to do a reversal for the transaction. Currently, because we are not connected to, let's say, a mobile money provider, if I do a reversal, it's not actually going to work. So if I click, let's say, a reversal, what happens is that it gives you the service that was paid, the amounts that you'll be reversing, the currency is not currently showing, but then you can see the details of the payment, and you can give a reason for the reversal. So in this case, you can say that customer return ice cream packages, right? And then click yes. So you can see, in a sense, it tells you that the reversal was successful. But since we are not actually connected to any reversal, any mobile money accounts, or we are not actually doing live transactions, this is just a simulation of the reversals would work. So that's basically how it works. So in the case where transaction has been reversed, you can see that this reversal, so reversal is currently pending, customer return ice cream package, right? So in the case any other user logs into the service and then comes to check on a particular transaction, they would see that they'll see the status of the reversal and then get to know if the reversal has occurred or not. This reversal is pending, as I mentioned earlier on, because we cannot actually reverse the money into the customer's account, right? So this is basically how a transaction is going to occur through the Slydepay marketplace, and which is one of the channels that customers can use in payment. And then the merchant in real time would be able to see the transactions as they come in. They'll be able to search. Also, we can basically generate a report for just this view that we are looking at. So transactions on the 1st of December. So click to download. A moment. Okay, I click open. And as you can see, it's opening in my screen. And okay, so enable editing. Okay, so here you can see that we have the 1520 that I did early on. And then we have the charge here that was put in, and then the details of the transaction, who actually made the payment, and this can be used for offline use. Okay, this can be used for offline use. Save. Okay. This can be used for online. Down save. Okay, cool. All right. And if we come to the profile, we can see that first it was 15.20 that was showing, but then we now have the 107 that has been added. So you see that the total unsettled funds is 120. Right. So I believe we've been able to go through transactions and order management and also account access in detail. I would want to know if at this point, sorry. So I think I can move into questions and answers at this point. I believe I've spoken for close to an hour since the session started. So any questions from anyone? Let me jump quickly into the chats. Okay, so Gabriel says, hello. Can we have the test platform created for some of partners? Okay, yes, that's very possible. I would wish Enterprise Live has one. This will make the training very interactive. Okay, yes. Hi, Gabriel, or Gabriel. That can be done. So I believe Nana Core would liaise with you to get the details of the users that you'd want set up, and then we'll have it set up and for it. I have alum that said currently at my end, the MTN transaction ID that customers receive are different from the transaction ID that customers receive. Okay, are you saying that with the upgrade, the transaction ID of the customer and what shows in the platform will be the same? Yes, alum. So I don't know why the transaction details are showing differently. I would like to assist you in getting to understand why that is happening. But then with this upgrade, whatever is coming from MTN and is showing on the customer side is what is also going to be shown on the platform. So those are the two questions that I have in the chat. I'd like to know if any other person has any questions, or if Nanako has any comments to make before we bring the session to a close. Any questions, please?
Hello.
Yes, hello, Nanako.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining this call. Nee has done a great job in taking you through. What I just wanted to clarify is for some of you on this call, you already have access to this platform. For you, the enhanced features is what we are looking at, like the orders tracking the transaction ID from the various MNOs. Because you are already billers. For those who are using the REST API or who are using it on your own website, when we are done with the upgrade, you will no longer log into the old one to view transactions. This will become your new point of contact for querying any transaction from a customer. And in order to help you query transactions seamlessly, now we allow you to see the state of a transaction at every point in time. So did the customer pay? How many times did the customer try and all that, just so you have enough information to engage the customer. I must say, with the Elom, so your question has been answered. So yes, currently because you already use the first version of Billbox, the transaction ID you see there is the system one, but like I mentioned, now you also be able to see the one from the telcos. So what if the customer, that screenshot, that ID in the screenshot, you'll be able to see it there as well. So these are my comments for now. If there's anything someone wants clarification, I'm available to engage you further on this as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Nanako. So before we bring the session to a close, I would like to remind each and every single one of us that we'll be having another webinar session. I believe Sherry would confirm the date, but in our next section, we'll be looking at the user management features, which is basically the sub-accounts features. Oh, I see two questions coming up. Okay, so I'll quickly state what we'll be doing in our next session. We have to do with the user management or sub-accounts. We'll look at branch management, and then we'll look at app management. So user management, branch management, and app management for that. So I saw a question, a hands up from Kim Nano. Hi, Mr. Nano. You can please go ahead with your question.
I was only prompting you that I had a question in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So Mr. Nano said with improved platform, will the settlements be automatic? Yes, it would be. So the settlements will be automatic, and we'll be looking at settlements in one of our sessions. So the session after the next session, we'll be looking at settlements basically. So I'll simulate a settlement process for you, and then you see how settlements would work on the merchant side and how you can track it in real time, and the report you'll be able to download. Also, and then Joe Murphy said, how soon can a transaction be reversed? I mean, a failed one. Joe, hello, Mr. Murphy. Can you please clarify when you mean a failed one? Do you mean a failed transaction or? Okay, so if okay, I think you mean a failed transaction. Okay, yes. So how soon can a failed transaction be reversed? Okay, so as I explained with others, until the point where the money is taken from the until the point where money is taken from the merchant, the transaction hasn't yet occurred, right? So when when an order is in processing basically, and it processes for a set period of time, which is basically is configurable on the system, we cancel that transaction, okay, or we cancel that order, meaning that no money is going to be taken from the the customer. But if money is taken from the customer, to show us a paid transaction on your end, for which you'll be able to click the reversal button, and then immediately the reversal will occur, right? So within a minute, the transaction should be reversed. So failed transactions would hardly occur or are not expected to occur on the platform, because transactions only occur when money has been taken from the customer. And if money has been taken from the customer, to show as a paid order, which will also show in your transactions view, for which you can click the reversal button for it to be reversed within a minute. I hope, Mr. Marfo, that answers your question. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Nano. Okay, I see Teddy is typing. Okay. Whilst Teddy is typing, any more questions? I'd like to take 2 or 3 more questions before we bring the session to a close. So I'd also like you to know that the session was recorded, and it will be made available on our social media, one of our social media channels, so that you can re-watch it. And then if you have any questions, please do feel free to forward it to Nanako or to Priscilla, who would basically contact the team on how to execute, if it's a feature or a suggestion that basically is being made. But more information as to where you'd be able to access the recording for this particular webinar. Yes, Mr. Nano. So there will be new plugins for the website, but then currently on the day of migration, your current integrations will continue working. Right? We have backward compatibility for current integrations, so they will keep on working as expected, and then in time we'll make it APIs and plugins available to the community for which they can upgrade to these plugins. Okay, Teddy's question finally came in. I'm in the moving, okay, and I'm using portions of the presentation. Will the record session be available via mail for rewatch? First endpoints. Okay, so Teddy, your first question, yeah, the recorded session will be made available. Priscilla will communicate that to each and every single one of you via email with a link to be able to rewatch it. And you have a second question around Nanako is making a point about those who use the REST endpoints, but I can't get what he said due to poor network. Kindly repeat that for me or take it here in comments. Okay, so what Nanako said is that for merchants that basically have web integrations, this interface is a new interface for them. They haven't basically seen this interface before. So once the migration is done, you would basically be able to see all your transactions showing in this new. You wouldn't need to log in to the old one for anything. So every transaction that is done both online and in store from our USSD channels, post channels, would be viewed on one interface. So basically that's it. All right. I believe we're running out, or we run out of time. I would like to thank each and every single person on the call. Very grateful that he could make the time to for the webinar. Priscilla would be getting in touch with each and every single one of you with a link to rewatch this session. And I'd like to entreat you to join our second webinar session in that Priscilla basically would be reiterating the dates for. So thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. So Priscilla, over to you.
Thank you, Nee. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Our next webinar and training is tomorrow, same time, 2 to 3:30 p.m. And Nee Louis is going to, he's already mentioned, and we equally sent the course outline in the email invite. But then tomorrow we are going to recap today's training and then go through sub-account management, branch management, app management, that's USSD POS, and then API, the API app, right? So tomorrow, the same time, kindly click the link to join. I'm grateful to you. If you have any questions, you can equally drop them in this group because the recurring meeting will continue in this group. So if you have any questions, you can drop them here and Niluwi and Anako will assist. For the links to the uploaded recording on our YouTube channel, you should get it by tomorrow before the next lesson, before the next training, sorry. So you should get it by 12 noon tomorrow. And it will be a public video. So whenever you get lost, you can equally go and check it out on YouTube. So thank you again for joining us. We hope to see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Nia and Priscilla, please, you can stay on it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.